And we'll group those, or I should say we list those, and we'll talk about a few different perspectives where that's important. We'll talk about licenses, about how authentication works, what maintenance each platform incurs, and then where it's being hosted, which is also an important perspective. Starting with the most fully fledged one, and I guess the original one, which is why it's being called Tableau Server all the time, is Tableau Server itself. Now, originally, what this is the actual software. Tableau Server is your original, I don't know, it must be 8 or 9 years old by now, original on-premise software that you host on your company server and where you configure everything again on your server to enable people on your network to access analytics that you publish with Tableau, right? So Tableau Server in its essence is normally this product, and that's where it comes from the beginning. And it's effectively you buy the software and you use the software and you install and you configure and you maintain the software. So this is the most extended, let's say, approach to the whole thing. Um, so looking at each of these aspects, we have the fact that licensing is going to differ from platform to platform. Licensing, when you use Tableau Server, so the software this time, can be in a core-based flavor or a user-based flavor. And we're not necessarily going to go into that discussion here at this point because, that could be like that's a bit too specific to some cases. It's a discussion that you will usually have with Tableau or their partners, maybe ourselves, when you are discussing the whole model behind your application and how Tableau is going to be a part of that. But I guess the takeaway, in case you're wondering, is the difference is, core-based, you license your processor cores and you pay for your amount of computing power, whereas user-based is, as the name indicates, you pay per user, and then the amount of user you have will determine the total price of the whole licensing part. So the approach, one approach can be more interesting as another than the other in some cases, but again, that's a very bespoke, a very bespoke situation, and it's going to be very specific. So at this point, it's just good enough to know that that's your options for Tableau Server if you choose to buy the actual software. Authentication, then, the second aspect, is gonna be the most powerful, I should say, when using Tableau Server. So Tableau Server offers you the complete range of possibilities for authentication when you host it yourself. That includes single sign-on, so single sign-on indicated here, trusted authentication, which is basically this other option here. Single sign-on can be anything that you probably already use in your company or on some of your platforms. Think of, sometimes from a technical perspective, SAML is one mechanism for single sign-on. OpenID is another one. But from a consumer perspective, what this means is that you log into one thing and you're logged into all your work things, to put it very simply. I think the most general example that most people will understand is Office 365 or your webmail if you use Microsoft. So if you use that and you sign into your email in your browser, you'll also be signed in to OneDrive, and you'll also be signed in to your document sharing for Microsoft Word, and you'll also be signed into other Microsoft platforms that your company uses. You'll even be signed in to other platforms in your company that have been enabled with this Microsoft single sign-on. That could even be Tableau, in fact. Some companies use Office 365/Azure single sign-on with Tableau Server. And so why is that interesting? Well, that's because if your application, your custom application or portal is also configured to use this single sign-on, then you will want to configure the same on Tableau Server so that your users can benefit from automatically being signed in to any platform that they access, including Tableau as a component in your architecture or in your application. So that's one way of doing things. The other is trusted authentication, which is a bit more of a hands-on approach, if you will, and it's your fallback in case your application or your portal doesn't have single sign-on. Maybe your portal or application uses their own sign-in mechanism. Maybe, you know, maybe it's a custom-made application where your company writes the code and you have written the code for people to sign in as well. Like, you manage your users' identities in your application. And that's fine, but that means that it's probably not going to be compatible with your just, common single sign-on applications. But in that case, you can extend your code to actually use trusted authentication. And trusted authentication is a protocol in which your application will talk to Tableau Server, and Tableau Server will know to trust the application because you've told it to, and allow users to be logged on simultaneously on both. So, I mean, not to go into a too technical explanation here, but the idea is that, you have these two options. Either you use single sign-on with, a thing you just pull from the market and it exists, and you use a platform for authentication that works with your application and Tableau and other things, or you do it the custom way and use trusted authentication, and from there you go and build whatever link between the two is necessary. Both are options when using Server. And just to finish the specificities of Server here in the last two columns. So when talking about maintenance, the point is obviously of Server that you buy the whole thing and that you host it yourself. That means that the customer or yourself are going to be responsible for the maintenance at that point as well. And then the location of hosting can still be on-prem or the cloud, right? Obviously, because on-prem you can host your own virtual machines with your hypervisor, be that VMware or Microsoft Hyper-V or any other one. But many companies are currently also making a transition towards more cloud-based, as to get rid of that own hardware. But both approaches are fine. Both are possible with Server. You can opt for any of the main cloud providers, including Google Cloud Platform, Amazon AWS, and Microsoft Azure, Alibaba, etc., etc. So that's all supported. So to summarize Server, I guess you could say that Server is your platform for when you're going to go hands-on and do everything yourself, install, maintain, but also tweak more than you can with the other options. Other options, which I might actually just jump towards now. Option number 2, which I'm sure some of you know as well, is Tableau Online. And Tableau Online is essentially the same software and the same platform as Server, but it has been modified to be fully maintained and supported and offered by Tableau. So it's basically, your hands-off approach. You still get many of the functionalities. When it's like you have all of the analytical functionalities, you always do. Like every feature they know in Tableau Desktop is supported across the platforms. But when you look at more technical aspects like authentication, for example, your options become slightly more limited for technical reasons, obviously, but also because you opt to buy access to a platform that's maintained centrally. And so what you get to tweak there isn't as obvious because the platform is hosted for hundreds, if not thousands, of customers alongside, and you just buy a piece of that and you get that to do everything that you need. Again, don't make that sound like a harsh limitation or a hard stop, like, oh, that means that it's not suitable for our case or for embedding. No, absolutely not. In fact, many cases can be addressed with Tableau Online as well for embedding. The point is that if you need, for example, trusted authentication, which is the specific feature where your application talks directly to Tableau Server, well, online is not going to be an option probably in that case. Again, everything's open for discussion, but online is going to be a more hands-off approach. But the benefit obviously here is that Tableau is the one doing the maintenance. So everything's cloud-based, Tableau is doing the maintenance. You don't have to look at your platform at all. You don't need people to manage it. You don't need people to review uptime and things like that. That's all taken off your hands and handled by Tableau. So pros and cons obviously for both approaches. Now there is a third approach, which is less common, I would say, until now at least. It might gain in some popularity in the future, but that is Tableau Online. And Tableau Online, oh, sorry, no, I should skip to the next slide. I'm just reading here without thinking. It's Tableau Public, sorry. Tableau Public is Tableau's community-based, like as the name indicates, public analytics sharing platform. Anyone can access anything on Tableau Public. It's open, it's free, and anyone can do anything. You can publish your contents. You can, just experiment and try and put a few things in there to share with friends or whatever. And that's great because it's free. It's infinity times cheaper than the other two platforms. The thing is, the catch is your data is going to be public if it's on there. But that's actually fine. And we're going to look at a few use cases rather than get stuck on technicalities. They'll tell you why that is the case. And so we just have three use cases here in which, one or the other platform is going to be more suitable. And I mean, I've described it already, so it should be fairly obvious, but let's walk through these just to illustrate what that means. So imagine we have a software company wanting to embed analytics in their app. Like maybe they have a mobile or web app, and their customers log into their application directly, right? And remember that technical aspect of trusted authentication that was only available with Tableau Server? Well, because of that, it's going to be likely that the company should use Tableau Server for this case, because they can log into the application. That trusted authentication mechanism can make sure that they can automatically sign into Tableau, and then that just appears in the application without them having to log on again. So this, as well as a few other technical aspects, can be decisive when it comes to, needing Tableau Server as opposed to Tableau Online. Now, another case to illustrate the choice between the platforms is, what about a financial institution who wants to visualize their performance and they want to embed their visualization in their public website, so on the internet, right? Maybe they have their websites www.bank.com, and they want to show us a small chart on there that shows, I don't know, well, their performance, maybe like, how they improved their clients' funds. I have no idea how banks work, but maybe that's what they want to show on their public website. Well, in that case, why not actually make use of Tableau Public? I mean, the intention is to make the data public anyway, so it's going to be completely free to just host a visual on there and have it then embedded into the public website. There's no such thing as authentication because everything is just public, so that's really convenient and free. So it can be an option in some cases. Governments and governments tends to opt for this quite often, actually, for their open communications about their data we've seen. And then a final case where a company already uses Salesforce to provide content to their customers. So the application that they're going to want to embed in is Salesforce, and they already use that to sign in. And a final note is that the company has a preference for SaaS solutions too. So because of that, because they use Salesforce, for which they can configure a single sign-on solution that they already use, Tableau Online can be a good fit because they could use the very same solution to just use that sign-in, like the same single sign-on solution. So those are the three platforms that we have that are available. And I'm just reading the questions quickly while we finish the section to see if there's anything we should address. So yeah, someone's asking if one or the other, so server or public, is more cost effective depending on the number of users. Yeah, like there's gonna be a balance point, if you will, where one becomes more interesting than the other. So typically, and again, it's gonna be different for every situation, but user base is gonna be cheaper for smaller user bases. And when you get larger user bases, core base is gonna be more interesting, but that's really, really generalized. So don't take that for granted, but that's how it usually is. And so someone asking a very appropriate question here too, the difference in user-based pricing for Tableau Server and Tableau Online. So yes, the prices are different. That's actually the asterisk, and I should have mentioned that, so thank you for reminding me of that. The prices per user are different for server as opposed to online. They are cheaper on server because you manage the platform yourself, and in online, in a user-based online license, you pay for the overhead of the hosting and the management. I don't know the exact list prices by heart, but these can be really easily found by just looking for Tableau Server and Tableau Online pricing on Google, for example, and you'll just find these. So hoping to have addressed all the questions on the platform,